Hey everyone, welcome back to the iGEMS podcast. This is The Mine. I'm John Fitzgerald and happy to be your host here again today. Excited to join you as we continue to explore the independent film landscape, all the disruption, and how things are evolving here. I'm pleased to have Ronnie Ycong join us today. Ronnie is the Executive Vice President and GM for the Americas from Digital Cinema United, or as we call it, DCU. And he'll take us on a deeper dive into this terrific company. Full transparency here, everyone. DCU is in the same sister company of LMG, Liquid Media Group, where iGEMS lives. So it's great to have Ronnie on board today. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, John. Thanks for having me on board. Excited to be part of this.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Filmmakers are going to love the information that you're going to share with us today and some of the festivals out there. So real quick, I just want to give a quick overview that I found on your website. I'm going to read this from your website. As the model for content continues to evolve, DCU dedicates itself to supporting content owners through providing better, more efficient, and cost-effective DCP services to assist with digital asset creation, delivery, and distribution. So I know you and your team have been on this for a while. Terrific venture. Give us a bit of backstory and share more about this core business solution that you provide.
Yeah, thanks for sharing and asking about that. DCU has been in this industry for over a decade. It was founded by our CEO and co-founder, Alan Christensen. He actually was in the studio side of things, and then also on the technical service side of things. And he came up with this business to figure out in ways to make things more cost effective and provide better service within the global industry in technical content services. So that was really the main focal point on how Alan co-founded DCU. It's really to ensure that the core clients that we're working with, they find a better way to interact with companies on a cost-effective way and provide them with better service. And I consider that best-in-class services, and that's how I think DCU has been since it was founded over a decade ago. And just to give you a little bit more kind of background to it, DCU is a worldwide technical content services partner for the global motion picture industry in the theatrical space, in the VOD platforms, in the home entertainment. So we really are entrenched on a global sense in providing filmmakers, content owners, and distributors to monetize on their product. On the theatrical side of things, which is primarily some of our focus here, we help filmmakers and distributors and content owners to make sure that we prep their content, handle the post-production side of things when their content is done from the editing stage, and making sure that it's prepared to go theatrically. A lot of filmmakers, ironically, don't know that to actually project their film in a theatrical environment, that it requires a DCP. And so that's one of the things that we really help with the filmmakers, is to make sure that we get their content prepped and transferred into a DCP, or if they need mastering to a DCP, we'll do that in a very cost-effective way and deliver that to theaters globally. So, for instance, in the U.S., we deliver content to 100% of the theaters in North America, including the Caribbean. So those are some of the things that we do in terms of the theatrical side of things to help a filmmaker really get their content and make sure that it is in the theatrical environment and help it monetize.
So just real quick, because there might be some folks listening who haven't had to make a DCP yet, maybe take a few minutes and just share with us, without getting too far into the weeds, about what a DCP stands for and what it is.
Well, basically, it's a digital cinema package, and that is the global standard to exhibit a piece of content, a film, into movie theaters today. It doesn't matter which country, it doesn't matter which territory. All the projection systems require a DCP formatted piece to be able to play through a movie projector today. And usually what happens is that, not with, like you said, without getting into the weeds, a filmmaker may provide us with a ProRes version of it. And then what happens from there is we master it into a DCP. And it could be in a 2K format, 4K format, what have you, different types of sound, audio, and we'll be able to take care of that 100% and get that to the theaters.
Awesome. And I know you've done a lot of work with the studios and certainly the mini majors. I know some of the clients are friends of mine. I think Abra Marama was one of your clients, Carol Martesco. But tell us how you work with some of the independent filmmakers. Is it a different program? And how do you help them prepare? Because frankly, a lot of filmmakers, as you said, go into making the movie without having a clue what happens at the end, right? How it's going to get from post-production into a theater. Right.
Well, first, whenever we work with a independent filmmaker, we really listen to what their goals are, and ensure that we walk them through the areas maybe they're not familiar with within the theatrical space. And we really work on a consultative phase at that point when we work with a filmmaker, so that at the end of the day we can match their goals and also add some points there that will actually exceed the goals that they're looking for. When we're working with a filmmaker, we walk them through the production phase of our services, and then also help them understand how we would deliver it to all the movie theaters. We have through two ways of a delivery method. We send it via hard drive, and also we send it on a digital phase. Our goal right now is sending it 100% digital through our platform called DCU Connect. And then that would be our primary goal of delivery. And then our secondary delivery method would be hard drive, and then sending it via courier service. But at the end of the day, when we're working with filmmakers, our biggest point to them is to make sure that they give us the best quality possible for us to transfer their content into a DCP, so that it's properly shown on screen and to the consumer. Because at the end of the day, we want them to, obviously, the product that they've created, it's exhibited in the best possible sight and sound in the movie theaters.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, just to clarify, because you're in some ways a bit of a middleman, right? Because the filmmaker comes to you, and before it gets to the theater, you need to do your work. But correct me if I'm wrong here. I feel like a lot of times independent filmmakers know, for example, they're going to be submitting their films to festivals, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But they just know they need a DCP, but they don't necessarily have a theatrical booking yet. So is it fair to say that sometimes filmmakers would be delivering the ProRes files and you would do your thing, and then ultimately have a drive sent to them, right, with the file on it, or they pick it up, whatever the case may be, but that you're not always going straight to the theater. In some cases, you're actually handing a drive over to the filmmaker.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So in cases where there could be cases where a filmmaker just needs a DCP mastered, and we'll do that for them. For the ones, like you said, with film festivals, they need a DCP. We'll get them a DCP and that they can take with them to the film festivals. And also at the same time, if they are looking to play their film at multiple theaters across the U.S., and they don't have the bandwidth or the resources for getting theaters booked for those films, and we'll be able to actually help them, actually guide them to go to vendors that we would recommend on theatrical bookings, and let's say getting in-theater materials and stuff like that, because we're well connected in that area to be able to support a filmmaker.
That's great. So you actually have relationships with the bookers themselves. That's impressive.
Yeah, most definitely. We do that a lot, actually, in working with a lot of bookers because of the fact that they've found DCU to be very dependable, and a lot of the filmmakers that we work with aren't connected with a film booker. So we really make sure that we have a good list of dependable bookers out there that can quickly jump on a project and help a filmmaker out. The other thing that I think is worth mentioning as we consult with the filmmaker when they're coming on board to work with us, as we work with them on the theatrical side of things, we also work with them on the VOD side of things if they need VOD distribution, and also home entertainment, which would be, Blu-ray, DVD, will help in that sense as well. Because our goal, actually, other than theatrical, as I mentioned when I was describing what we do, we really help content owners monetize their product. So we go from theatrical, VOD, Blu-ray, DVD. We really try to help a filmmaker if they want to monetize their content as best possible. We can help them in one roof to be able to walk them through step by step and help them monetize on their product on those different mediums.
It's terrific. It's terrific. So let's shift gears for a moment because obviously it's a big space in the independent film world now, is the film festival arena, right? So you have a lot of filmmakers that are coming to you saying, I need a DCP. I just got invited to this festival. But I also know that you work directly with festivals. And thank you again for helping us with Filmocracy Fest. A filmmaker needs a drive and needs the file done and shipped over, and you stepped right up and made that happen quickly, and we appreciate that. Talk a little bit about how you liaise with theaters for film festivals and communicate with film festival directors and print traffic departments, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we recognize, before we actually launch, let me take a step back in terms of the film festivals. Before we launch any of our products, we're always listening to all the players out there in terms of, the filmmakers, film festivals, exhibitors, what have you. We really listen to what their needs are so that we can make sure that we're actually launching a product that is valuable to them. And so when it came to the film festivals, one of the things that we found from the film festivals is that their real main concern is that they need help being able to manage all the submissions that are coming in, especially when it's a big film festival, and you have very little resources and you're getting content from different places. We found that that's one of the things that was most important to a film festival, is helping manage the logistics of the filmmaker submissions. So one of the things that we put together is that our DCU Connect platform, which is an electronic delivery platform, which we use for, again, downloading these featured DCPs and trailers to movie theaters globally. We realized that's a platform also we can use for film festivals. And so the platform is completely software based and can easily download it to a theater where the film festival is going to be held. And then instead of having a filmmaker receive all the submissions directly into, whether it be courier service or what have you, it can be all managed through our DCU Connect platform. So that's one of the things that we feel that, and we've heard that becomes very valuable because it decreases that amount of stress on their part in managing all that content that's coming in. So our goal is that for film festivals to make it easier for them to manage the submissions that are coming in. The DCPs or whatever content and format that they're receiving from the filmmakers can go directly into our DCU Connect platform. And it also can be projected on screen using the DCU Connect platform as well. And it's completely software based, so there's no hardware. So it makes it very simple to track, to manage, and then to exhibit on screen.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. I mean, I think a lot of these filmmakers, myself included, years ago when I was making these documentaries, a lot of this stuff just wasn't really thought of far enough in advance. You knew we needed a DCP, but the software you're talking about is definitely very innovative, and I'm sure will be welcomed by by all parties involved. One of the things that I thought would be helpful, because you've worked with so many filmmakers over the years, is I'm sure that you've seen the same mistakes time and time again, or some surprises that might come up for filmmakers that they didn't anticipate. Can you share a few of those that, like, maybe tips that filmmakers wouldn't really think about other than just sending you a ProRes file? Any inside info you can share?
Yeah, I think a few that's maybe also potentially current too. I think that one, like I said at the very earlier stage, a lot of filmmakers don't realize that they actually have to have a DCP formatted print to be able to play in the movie theaters. That's the most important tip there. And then there's other things that I think that are current now, is that some filmmakers today, they're coming on board and thinking, they're thinking, should we do theatrical? Should we go straight to VOD? Things like that. And I've been in this business for 30 years as of January. And I still see the resilience of theatrical. So I always recommend to filmmakers that, you've gone through filming this. This is a product you created. This is your passion. Why go straight to VOD? I think that there's still, even in this day, that there should be some kind of theatrical release before going into VOD. And I think that's usually important. And a lot of filmmakers that think about that they should just move, not do theatrical and just go straight to VOD. I think it's a big mistake for them, because at the end of the day, this is something that they're passionately made. So I think the theatrical run is hugely important for them. And I think in some cases they're worried that it's costly, but I think after they hear about our services and they work with DCU, because our services are cost effective, more so than any services out there, they quickly realize that, yes, theatrical is a place that we need to go into and have that window. So that to me is hugely important. Like, there's many times where a filmmaker comes to us, especially in this current environment, thinking, so I'm not sure if I want to go theatrical, but I want to go VOD. And I immediately talk through them, consult them on it. And they quickly turn around and realize that that's a good point, that they should be going theatrical. So to me, that's one of my biggest tips as well from that aspect of things. Don't let the current climate dissuade you from really putting your art on where it should be, which is theatrical. So that's why one of my actually biggest tip that's current today.
Yeah, that's helpful. We talk about that a lot with iGEMS Pro. Just the idea that playing in theaters is still really important to a lot of filmmakers, and sometimes they just feel like it's too far out of reach. And I think what we're seeing now is almost a resurgence in the idea of forewalling and event releases, where filmmakers can kind of take control on their own, kind of like you were saying with your relationships with bookers. You can find a booker, and in some cases you can go right to the theater, and you can either book your 7-day run and see if they extend you, or you can do a premiere or some type of an event release. And I think what Tug and Gather were doing years ago with those event releases, and Fathom is still succeeding, just bringing these unique events into theaters across the country and gearing all your marketing up to see these projects in a certain time frame. That makes a lot more sense to me than letting a small independent film that might not have a big marketing budget kind of languish in a theater playing 3 or 4 times a day for 7 days.
Right. And there's a lot, right. I completely agree. And there's a lot of screens out there that want content. So I think this is an ample time where filmmakers shouldn't be afraid of going to the theatrical side of things, because there's a lot of movie theaters that need content. And I think that this is the time where actually independent filmmaking is going to grow out of this whole current situation. Especially right now in September, October, you don't have very many big Hollywood titles coming out. So there's a lot of resurgence of other independent films that are coming in September and October. And I think that's hugely important. And DCU can help kind of navigate that with them in a consultative way.
Right.
And then the other thing I would say is that if a filmmaker is very interested in actually even considering their content for future awards like the Academy and what have you, the Oscars, they should at least try to get it into LA, Chicago, New York for a limited screening, limited release.
Yeah.
And
it's so
the great
funny
thing
that you
about
just
it,
mentioned that. That's funny you mentioned that. Sorry to interrupt you. I want to throw one idea out real quick because you just teed it up perfectly. Filmocracy, as you know, is one of our partners, and we just partnered with them to create an Oscar qualifying campaign. So we're literally in September going to do several different programs of short films to help them qualify for Oscar consideration. And the rules keep changing, but for right now, the way it is this year, short films have to play once a day over a 7-day period, and features have to play 3 times a day over 7 days. And there's 6 markets that will qualify them. And so they have to read the rules and make sure that they can, check all the boxes, so to speak. But I love what you're saying about Oscar qualification, because especially for short filmmakers and doc filmmakers, I would say it's a little tougher for the independent narratives to compete with the big boys. But for documentary and short filmmakers, I think it's worth considering if you have a strong film.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially now too, because with the Oscars expanding actually the markets where they will allow screenings for Oscar qualification. So during COVID, and I believe they've kept those same guidelines available. You can now do it also in Atlanta, Miami. They've expanded the markets outside of just Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity for filmmakers to make sure that they even put themselves in that qualification run. To me, that's hugely important. Just going back to your question about some tips, that's one thing that's hugely important to me, just because I'm very passionate about our theatrical side of our business and this industry. But also, one thing I just realized too that I think it's not just current now, but has been to me something that filmmakers should also make sure they recognize and they do. Whenever they are coming into the theatrical space, it's so important for us to always QC their content before actually we start distributing the content, because there's been too many times where a filmmaker has done the editing and the post side of things with, let's say, a outside lab that may have never done editing for theatrical, but maybe has done it for broadcast, cable TV, what have you. And those are completely different formats and different mediums, obviously. And there are often times when content comes to us that's going out to theatrical, and a filmmaker says, "Oh, we've QC'd it already and everything," and then we're getting down to the line. Actually, when we QC it ourselves, there's a bunch of errors on it because of the fact it's been built for non-theatrical. So I think that's hugely important too. I think they should be giving themselves ample time to make sure we QC that for them. And for us as DCU, we require to QC all the films that come to us before it hits theatrical, because to ensure that it's in the best interest of the filmmaker. Again, they built a great product, a film that they're passionate about. Obviously, we want to make sure that obviously that's exhibited on screen with high quality sight and sound. And so that's hugely important that I think that I wanted to add there as a tip, because many times there are errors that come in, especially when they're working with let's say potentially a lab that doesn't focus on theatrical.
Mm-hmm.
And, from a DCU standpoint, our production services, we do that 100% all the time. So we can even help filmmakers with that as well, in terms of making sure that we handle all their rewrapping and also mastering services before it hits theatrical.
Terrific. Well, one more quick question on the kind of prepping for filmmakers front before we kind of wrap things up with how people can find you. I wonder if there's anything that you've noticed over the years that could be helpful for filmmakers to know in terms of audio. Sometimes audio is taken for granted. And I know, if you're in a movie theater, right, you were talking about theatrical, 5.1 is ideal, right? And I think back to the Oscar qualifying, I think you have to have it at minimum 3-channel. But is there any tips or ideas you could share that could help filmmakers in that post process so they're not kind of caught by surprise?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, 5.1 is great. I know some filmmakers ask about doing Atmos. Atmos is a great product, but at the same time, there really is no need for that if it's not really an action-packed film, what have you. I think that 5.1 is a great product for audio in any film. And the best thing about it is that when you're doing 5.1, it's basically every theater in the US that you're hitting, or even globally. Not every theater is going to have Atmos. Not every theater is going to have 7.1. But all theaters, for the most part, will have 5.1. So I think that's one, to make sure that filmmakers understand that. And I think going back to that same question is that 2K and 4K. A lot of filmmakers asking me about, we built it in 4K. Can you make sure you play it in 4K? And at the end of the day, it's never about what we, DCU, or what the filmmaker wants in terms of playing it in 4K at the theater. It's really dependent on what the theater is capable of playing. Majority of the theaters in globally can play film in 2K format. And even if you filmed it in 4K, it'll downres to 2K basically. And so I think that's also hugely important, because there's too many times where a filmmaker comes to us and say, "Oh, you know what? I filmed this in 4K, or I want this to make sure it's playing in 4K." It's not really up to us and how it's going to play at the theater, because it's really about the equipment. If you filmed it in 4K, the theaters where they have projectors that are 4K capable, it will play in 4K. But if there are theaters that are 2K, it'll basically downres to 2K. So I think that's hugely important to know as well. And
that's just on the theatrical side, right? And then when they shift gears to the streaming side, it's not the same for the most part.
Exactly.
They don't always want the same
either. Yeah.
Right.
And I think exactly it's different too, and every platform has specific requirements as well. And that's one of the things, the beauty about DCU is that, as I mentioned, we help filmmakers monetize across all different platforms, whether it be theatrical, VOD, Blu-ray, DVD, things like that. But when it comes to VOD, Digital Cinema United also handles all the content prep, handles the pitching to all the platforms, and also the content delivery. And so we're a full house in terms of lab that it can do the content side of things and prepping it and also delivering it. But also on the sales side of things, we're able to actually sell to all the platforms and pitch your film to all the platforms that's available out there.
Great to hear. Great to hear. All right, so let's start to wrap this up. I want to make sure you tell everybody where they can find your company and where to find you. They send you an email, they send a submission form. How does that work so that people can get on your radar?
Well, you can reach us at digitalcinemaunited.com, and that's how to be able to get a quote from us and also ask any questions that you may have.
And your email?
It is Ronnie Y at digitalcinemaunited.com.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we put that information in the show notes too, just in case somebody's listening in the car or what have you. But it's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ronnie. It's been fun. You guys provide a great service to filmmakers and studios and production companies all over the world, and it's a pleasure to be in the same company under the same umbrella at LMG. Yes, most definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, that's a wrap for another edition here of The Mine. Again, I'm John Fitzgerald for iGEMS. Real quick, I want to remind everybody, if you didn't already know, we launched our iGEMS app. So go to iGEMS TV in your app stores, download that app, and make sure you register for iGEMS Plus. And it's pretty cool because we created a program where you can earn rewards points for watching trailers and sharing and liking and commenting, and you get cool merchandise, and you can enter some sweepstakes with amazing prizes. So definitely check that out. And until next time, thanks everybody.